You come to understand your own contradictions, your own weaknesses. Where am I lacking certainty? Where do I still have doubts? You understand how the topic is connected to everything else. Now, the thing is, it's a practice in listening, reflecting, and I would even say meditating. If not meditating, but a preparation, a very powerful preparation for meditation. In the sense that, well, first, of course, you get a course understanding of a topic. You get that in class. You get that when you study on your own. Even when you memorizing it, your understanding deepens just through constant repetition and so forth. So it's a good exercise in memory. And then you start debating. So either the other person makes mistakes, there are logical inconsistencies, contradictions, so you're trying to point them out. But even if they answer in exactly the right way, you're now trying to find inconsistencies. You try to, or suggest, oh, but this is wrong, and kind of challenge them. I mean, even if their answers are completely correct, you're pretending they're not. No, this doesn't make sense because it's contradictory to this, and then this doesn't make sense, and then this scripture says something else. So you're trying to find logical inconsistencies, intellectual contradictions, and so forth. And it's this incredibly beautiful process that helps you to understand better, of course, but helps the other person at the same time. So you are the challenger, and the other person needs to answer. So in a way, the challenger can lead the debate, determines where you go. The person sitting down, they can try and push it in this direction or that, but only if the challenger really takes it in that direction, they get their way. So basically, they just have to answer and defend their view, called the defender, therefore. And then in this interaction with the other person, because you don't just debate one topic once, no, every day, 5 hours, you look at it with every debate from a slightly different angle. So you deepen your understanding slowly over time. I mean, this is a slow process. So this is connected to everything else, and how is it connected? So it's a very powerful tool in terms of also interdependence. And obviously, when it comes to analysis, what is analytical meditation? It's basically you debate with yourself in a meditative setting. Now here, before you do this, or at a different time when you basically engage in analytical meditation, here you do it with another person, which it's so beautiful because two minds are always better than one. So I have a limited understanding, I have a limited grasp of something, and the other person has a slightly different grasp. And we learn from each other. The idea is one mind is better, two minds are better than one, three are better than two, and so forth. And even if someone is not very strong in their debate, you always learn something from them, even from their mistakes. Even from their mistakes, because you now need to prove to them why what they assert is not in accordance with reality. And you have to be very skillful about it, right? Adjust to you have to put yourself into their shoes. So what is their way of thinking? How did they get there? How can I get them away from it? So it's very much you connect with this person on a very personal level. But coming back to the analytical meditation, well, it's a great tool to prepare yourself to do to engage in very effective analytical meditation. But it can also be an analytical meditation, because what is meditation? It's familiarizing yourself with a particular topic. And if that familiarity is powerful enough, if you internalized it enough, then there's an emotional response, there's a change, your mind transforms. And many of us, when we debate, there is a transformation just because of the intensity of the debate, going over again and again, and it becomes like a meditation, like an analytical meditation. But that's just one aspect of meditation. What about single-pointed meditation? What about concentration? Well, if you watch a debate, it seems concentration. No, there is no concentration. But first of all, you have to memorize. In order to be able to memorize, which means retain something, you need to train in concentration. The more concentrated you are, the better. The more concentrated you are, the better in terms of memorizing something and retaining it, being able to take it to the debate ground and then debate it further. Now, when it comes to concentration, well, the first step to develop your concentration is to memorize. Like to memorize, I mean, there's a lot of memorization involved. And in order to memorize effectively, you need to develop a certain level of concentration so that you not only are, in the short term, you're able to retain whatever you memorize, but also remember it in the long term so that at least at the debate, you remember what you memorized. But also, you're on a huge court with not just your own classmates, usually in the beginning, 2 and 2, one the challenger, one the defender, and you change after some time. But it's not just your classmates, these pairs of your classmates, but all the other classes. And it's noisy. Everyone is shouting and screaming. So initially, it's really difficult, and you're distracted by this person here and this person there. So you learn to keep totally focused despite all the noise. So in the 21st century, living in a busy city, it's very effective to reflect on the Dharma, just focusing on what you're doing, just the other person. So in that sense, your concentration is very much required. But the way we usually learn, we need visual tools, right? Not just someone talking to us, someone to look at, but books. We want charts. We want it right in front of us so we can follow the person's argument. And it's very difficult for us to just keep it right there. Like, what were we debating again? What were you, the teaching style, the Tibetan teaching style is without any tools. You're just supposed to sit there and listen. And for us in the West in particular, because we're so visually oriented, it's very difficult without tools. So it's like you keep bodhicitta right there. So what's its definition? What's its category? To build this mental image without having a tool, very difficult initially. So in the debate, you learn exactly that. No tools. It's just your mind. It's just your mind, because you have to be focused. If you're the challenger, what does the other person say? So keep the topic in your mind. Be clear about the topic, clear and focused. So which are two of the main characteristics you need for concentration. Clear and focused. And then also remember what the other person is saying, because you're trying to catch them. Oh, some inconsistency that later on you can go back to and say, so it's not this. You said earlier such and such, it's not this, right? So you have to retain all that while clearly, without losing sight of the actual topic and everything else that's related to it that comes up during the debate. But the defender has to do the same, not forget what he or she said earlier, right? Because otherwise the other person may, outmaneuver you. I mean, find a way to disprove you. And it sounds like, oh, that's some serious competition here, but it isn't. It's the goal, but there's a lot of humor involved, a lot of humor. So it's not like you're sitting there meditating and trying to concentrate. There's a lot of fun. So it is relaxing, very relaxing, because, well, it's good. It's good exercise. You're out there, well, not for the person sitting down, but since you take turns, they all get a turn to get up, move their arms, stomp their legs, and be active physically. So in that way, you move around. But it's also, there's a lot of humor involved. So you always take a break and laugh a little bit, and someone gives a funny answer, or you debate in a funny way and forget something. It's always cause for laughter. So laughter is really important. But anyway, going back to how it is effective in terms of practice. So you train your mind in the analytical faculty, obviously, by going deeper and deeper into a topic, but also concentration. Concentration. You really learn to keep focused, memorizing, retaining the information, holding it right there clearly and stably, in a stable way, and then help, and you have this image of the particular concept, like bodhicitta in this case, and how it connects to other things. And you take it here and there, just with your mind, and do it with the other person. Learn from the other person. Learn from the other person. So you connect with them. It's very social. You socially connect to them on a special level. So yeah, it's a very active kind of way of learning the Dharma. But as I would claim, it's actually a practice of listening, reflecting, and even meditating. If it's not, there are some cases of people who have sudden insights. So there are accounts of past debaters who have sudden and deep insights into reality. That is rare, but that would really be an example of the debate being part of your meditation, in the sense of having a spiritual insight.